So we're gonna cover a lot of things today. Should last roughly half an hour as usual. If you have questions at the end, we'll of course have time for this. Thank you for showing up. For this, we're gonna change a bit the music on this kind of call. We're gonna show you both the good and the bad because we think it's important. In this market, no one is doing perfect. We aren't an exception. The what we want to show you today is why we think we will do extremely well in the future with what we've been building and what's coming later on. So yeah, we had summer. Interesting things happens. There's two things I want to point out over this summer at Paladin. The first one is that Paladin is finally doing something else than just quest fees and quest farm revenue. It's small, it's yellow, you can see it at the bottom, but the boosting module is starting to yield in revenue, and we expect both Warlord and the and Dullahan to start kicking it off. It's an important path because, as you might have seen over the last 4 or 5 months, both Curve and Balancer have trembled, and it's not good for us to be dependent on only two protocols. We have to be as diversified as possible so we can become resilient. So this is a process we've started working on early at the beginning of the year, and that we're slowly starting to see payoff. So that's like an interesting and important news that we're seeing. As you see, we can also talk about it. We had an extremely good beginning of the year up until summer, and then there was a countdown, which is something that we can talk about before. Um, Revenue has not been excellent over July, August. It's not going to be much better in September. There's a special reason for this. Is we've kind of been in an in between, where competition has released the V2, all of them, but we haven't, and because of the announcement we've had to do, we're about to do, we've had kind of an in between in terms of BD, where it was hard for us to pitch to people what we have now and what we will have later. So there's kind of an in between, and we expect a huge back and forth, with hopefully getting to heights like these much higher by end of year. That's the goal here. So yeah, the good is we're diversifying. The good is we're still earning a good amount of revenue. But the bad is that Quest V1 has slightly underperformed over summer. Something I would like to point out is that we have invested as a DAO into a Liquis as a launch partner, which has earned us a significant amount of voting power there. Um, I don't think the market rate is accurate today, but if you look at the market rate, basically we're up 10x of what we invested. So that's always a good thing. I think we invested something like $10,000 as a DAO, and we're getting out something like, I don't want to say something crazy, but probably something like 80 or 90 current value. So yeah, always good to know. Let's look a bit more in depth. There's been a few shifts in what's happening with emissions and protocol non-liquidity. So because the asset PAL has lost a good amount of value over the past 12 months, the POL strategy has become less efficient. So we've had to modify it a few times, and what we've done over the past month is that we've reduced the emissions in order to reduce the sell pressure, especially as the new things are coming. We have opened an Arbitrum pool for those of you who do not want to trade on mainnet. It's over 100k deep, so you can trade pretty seamlessly on it. And we are slowly both deprecating the PAL stake Aave because of dual hands release, and the PAL USDC, both because we have an Arbitrum pool and because the Uniswap D3 pool seems more efficient against stable. So instead, we're growing, and we have deposited a good amount of liquidity on the PAL Frax, which is it's written $8,000 of liquidity, but there's actually $35,000, almost $40,000 of liquidity on Bunny. It's not on Liquis, and the APR is quite substantial still. So it's just a move in liquidity in order to be able to manage it better and to reduce slippage in general, as well as to create a better farm strategies all around. In terms of what you look for the budget of the DAO, we are slowly paying back the debt that we've contracted last year during the Terra event. We're 45% done in paying it back, which is good because we're halfway done through the. Basically, we refinance for 12 months, and we're at the 6-month mark, so it's basically half, and we've paid back 45%. without eating in any collateral. So we're on a good way to fully pay it back and be entirely free by March. I expect us to be able to fully pay it back by December if we do well over the next 3 more months. Uh, I still want us to build a fat stablecoin treasury. It's going to be a challenge, but it's something we should really tackle onto. And personally, my expectations are still that the DAO should be making over 100K per month by the end of the year, which is why I've been talking about potentially sharing part of the revenue into new tokenomics and things like this, which we'll talk about later. So things are moving. Feel free to ask any questions if you have at the end for this, or we can keep chatting in the Discord as always. But it's important. I am back. I crashed. I'm sorry. Now, for those of you, you can now see the full experience of what the contributors suffer when they're on call with me. I often crash, unfortunately. I put back the the screen, by the way, the slides. But yeah, that's it for what we've been doing. I think what's important to emphasize is that we remain extremely cautious of the way the context is working. We didn't expect the market to go well in September. Some in the team think it's gonna go positive in the next few months. We expect a significant trend reversal probably in spring next year with the Bitcoin halving and everything that's been happening around it. But in general, the ecosystem keeps building, keeps getting stronger. So there's no reason that at some point the market doesn't wake up. Our job is basically to be as solid as possible for when this happens. So yeah, um, for the boost system, pledge is finally live. It's a new way to delegate and to have boosting power work. So we're slowly migrating what's been on the old SDT marketplace and what's here. It's a bit of an in between. We're roughly making $2,000 a month on boost, so it's still not a lot, but we see more growth opportunities, and it's always good to have this. The other really good thing about boost is that it's probably one of the most autonomous protocol part, the sense that it needs very little amount of work and it just works like this. We have a few more pledges that are incoming. There's mainly a big integration that we're vying for. So this is good because it's a bet we made a long time ago and we're starting to see it pay off, and we expect this to pay off multiple folds over the next few years, simply because a lot more projects will adopt boosting systems. That's it for boosts. Moving on to Warlord. So actually, there was a redeem today, but if you look at the way Warlord works, right now the circulating supply has more or less doubled over the last 2 months, which is good. We still need to keep acquiring. It's a slow growth process, but if you have CVX, it is the best place to get yield on it, and you're getting it mostly in War. And another thing to take into account is that, well, Oxtec Grinder and Memory Grinder are here in the call. They've built something called Tolgar. I highly advise you for you to check it out. It's basically an auto compounder on top of Warlord, and the yield is extremely cozy. Like, yeah, you get, it's basically the most competitive yield you can get on VLR and VLCVX. So that's a really interesting one. We're working on a few more integrations to make all of this more seamless, mainly an ETH and USDC app that should be coming soon, as well as liquidity to create more healthy arbitrage. Liquidity will most likely be on Bouncer. So that's it for Warlord. To give you an idea, considering the TVL right now, Warlord is yielding roughly $400 or $500 for the DAO. So it's not a lot, but it's still a significant amount that we can use. And if you look at it, Boost and Warlord basically are providing enough yield for us to pay back the interest over the loan. So that's actually something. Moving on to delegation. So there's a few weird things and good things that have been happening with delegation. First, as we mentioned, we discontinued our auto voter for Tetubal after the changes, but we opened one for VL Leak. We had around 13,000 votes under control for this round, but we will have something like 60,000 next round, considering what has already been locked. So there's more, and we expect to have a significant hold over the market because we are the first movers. On Aura, we have done an extremely good work in growing, reaching 1.8 million VL Aura. We hope it will keep growing, but it's a long-term play. We have a few integrations coming that should help us keep this area growing significantly. By the way, the auto voter is an essential part of what we'll be announcing today too. And the CVX vote, it's hard for us to scale, honestly, simply because Votium has such a strong hold over everything. And there are a lot of products already built on top of Convex. You have Bent Finance, which is very small, but you also have Pyrex and Clever. So um, what we've been looking into is partnerships to be able to grow the amount of people who actively participate on uh, on our vote market. Something else that reduces the importance of having VLCVX is that Convex has released their custom governance systems with their own interface, and they will have bribes, including ours, integrated on that interface, which means that we can expect quote unquote natural arbitrage happening via their interface. So that's it for delegation. Moving on to State of Quest. So as you can see, we did an extremely good month of spring, followed by a bit of slower rundown. It will be explained very easily in the next few slides, but it's not a constant. We expect the votes to basically go back up in a significant manners. Another thing to take into account is that we have integrated Bunny a few months ago, and we have now integrated a convex-like layer, which is called Liquid. You should check it out. It's an interesting protocol. And yeah, that's basically it. We have a significant amount of quests. It's basically being up only since the beginning of the year, and I think the chart over the next few months for quest volume is going to be a very interesting one. We've passed over 5 million of volume. We're closing on 6 right now, to give you an idea on quest. Moving on to Dullahan. So this is a bit of a, how should I say, a shorter slide, because right now it's hard to push people to mid-go simply because it's unpegged. So we've been slowly acquiring more and more Aave, but because the Go yield isn't still significant, it's hard to get all of these people around the table. So what we are doing is that in the meantime, we've done two things. We've been working on a few integrations that will happen once Go is spec back, and two, we have been actually three things. We have been looking into ways to create more demand, not just through integrations, but through custom systems that we're building, mainly looking at Yearn V3 potentially. I won't leak too much, but there's a few contributor ideas that are very, very interesting. And three, I've personally joined, I've been asked to join, nothing official yet, the liquidity committee on Aave to help make sure it repegs. So once this happens, we expect this to kind of take over and be able to scale as we've envisioned it. But yeah, it's on track. It's a good protocol. It's just as Warlord, it's going to take time to basically get to the size it's expected to be, because good things take time, especially when you're not putting 200% APR. So that's it for Dullahan. That was the exciting part of what we did last year. Yeah. And the last big thing that happened was kind of this month. So the supply has been growing quietly, not too much. We still have a fair amount that's staked and locked, so 55% without POL. That means that there isn't that much PAL that isn't just staked or locked, honestly, or LP. However, to take into account, we've released and announced a very large rework of tokenomics that passed with a landslide. So we will cover this a bit later, but there's a few very interesting synergies that can happen with this. Okay, so that's it for like the state of the protocol right now. It's in a good state, but it's not enough for us to sustain if the market is shit like this for the next 2 years. That's something we have to be very, very honest about. So what we need is to basically be much more aggressive both on marketing, on tokenomics, and on the way we build our products. This is something we've seen. We weren't taken aback by the market when we realized this was going to be long lasting at the beginning of the year. We set out to build a lot of things, and this is why today we're announcing to you guys Paladin V2. So Paladin V2 is not an app per se. It's a whole concept and rebrand of everything we've built up until now. So that's why we call it V2. And Warden is dead, in the sense that Warden will be slowly, how should I say, phased out to leave more place for Paladin. And all the apps that we have built now will basically be built under Paladin. You'll have Paladin Quest, Paladin Warlord, Paladin Dullahan, and Paladin Boost. And this is how we're going to keep structuring the project. Uh, it's not just a brand or um, a marketing update. There's a ton of things that are under this. So I want to uncover with you guys everything that's coming. Some are known, but we're going to be able to give you more context into it. Some are not, and we're excited to show them. But the idea is that we are entering a new era for Paladin. We released the mainnet app for Paladin V1 2 years ago. Now it's time to turn a new page and welcome V2. So what it is? First, new UI. We're redoing the whole website for it to be more understandable. So you're going to have all of the links. Finally, you'll be able to access Dullahan, Warlord, Boost Quest from the same website. You won't have to type the URL. And on the side, you will have access to go seamlessly between all of these apps. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're migrating everything, including the governance module. All of it will progressively over the next few months appear on the new UI. So it's going to be much cleaner, much easier to explain to your friends. That's the first step of our coherence. We hear and understand your complaint that it seems that we've built all of this without logic. It's going to make more sense as we build this and as we slowly get to the endpoint we want to get to. So new UI. New UI is not enough, right? We need more. So what can we do more? Well, we have Quest V2. So Quest V2 is basically, how should I say, the concentrations of the 2 years we've started working on both markets. It's not just about the technical, but it's about the full understanding and being able to provide the best service we can to the protocols we've been working. Because today, Paladin has clients. These clients are DAOs, and they're the people who enable us to get these fees and to live off of these. So there's going to be a good amount of new things that should make Quest V2 the state-of-the-art vote market. First, we will not do fixed incentives exclusively anymore. We're moving to a choice between fixed incentives and something we call ranged quests. So ranged quests are something akin to dilutive quests, you could see on Votium, for example, with the difference that they have a maximum cap and a minimum cap. So basically, when you have a max cap, you choose up to how much you're ready to pay for your vote and up to how much you're ready to pay, which means that the holders know they cannot get diluted up to past this point. So the number of votes feels like a fixed rate quest up until the max cap, then it dilutes until the min cap is reached, and at this point, the quest closes. This is actually really important because it means that we're going to be able to compete much more fairly with the other projects and enable our clients to switch between fixed and dilutive depending on how they appreciate the market trends, right? That's the first part. The second part, which is really important, is that we've created new modules that we call rollovers. When you create your quest, you can choose what you will do with what is unspent. And this creates a whole new dimension to the way Quest works because it means that you can choose to either claim back, like you could, but you can also choose to um, roll them over to the next round, which is nothing revolutionary. We're not the first to do it, but you can do something much cooler. You can distribute them as liquidity mining. So now we can come to projects and tell them, use Quest. It's the only protocol that will be guarantee you to do liquidity mining or better. Basically, we can set the max cap at 1.x efficiency and then get it diluted. So if they don't get enough votes, they just do liquidity mining with what the budget that's left, or they get better deal because of the vote incentives. This should help us reach a significantly larger amount of clients than we've been before. And something we haven't done before is that we're going to start being able to be extremely aggressive in terms of business development onto what we've done. Of course, there's a whole new UX. You can now search gauges, etc. It's going to be make life much easier for you. But that's the base of what we've been doing. We want to add a lot more data points for Quest Creator. This is going to take a bit more time because Quest V2 is around the corner. It's not going to be released today. I'm sorry, there's nothing releasing today, but it's releasing very, very soon, like in the next few rounds. I will not give dates because I see the devs are in the audience and I want to leave. But yeah, that's for Quest V2. There's one last thing which we've discussed that's included in Paladin V2, um, and that's the vote flywheel, the tokenomics. Wait, did we remove the? Oh, uh, the idea is that we've talked about it, right? But it means that the voters will be able to get more out of the quest. Basically, with emissions and eventually, once we've paid back the debt protocol revenue, we will be able to subsidize part of the quest budget, the incentive budgets from clients, making our platform the cheapest from the market. And on the other side, we will be able to enable voters to get the best deals because they will be getting the base rates rewards plus the PAL incentives plus the real yield. Which means that if you are accumulating and you have been accumulating PAL, you will make significantly more money by receiving vote incentives than you were doing before. When we're looking at the simulations right now, it's basically going to basically should give you something 5 to 25% more rewards. So if you're getting 25% APR on VLCVX right now, you would be getting 30 to 50% APR, which means that all of you will be eating good. And the idea is that with this system, we can attract more and more voters and protocols that are bribing into the Paladin ecosystem to keep building and drive more revenue into the system. So there's still a few proposals to determine all of this, but the whole idea is that it's built around Quest V2. This is a native system that was built around Quest V2 to make both the range system extremely efficient and simply the 10x product we've been looking for. Because the only way we're going to take over the vote incentive market is if we have a 10x product compared to the other. And I believe that both with the range system, the liquidity mining rollover, and the tokenomics, we created a product that is extremely strong and where competition will have a hard time in following up simply because their tokens already have a utility and it's going to be hard for them to position themselves and create something that is as strong in terms of the flywheel. So that's it. We've leaked a lot. Starny will be posting a thread, I think, right now on Twitter. So please do retweet it and share it around. Our goal over the next few months is going to start having all these voters and people buy PAL to get positioned. The vote flywheel should be live by the end of the year. And once we're there, I think it's going to be a really interesting position because it creates a flywheel where we create such interesting APR that that these stakeholders have an interest in accumulating PAL and buying more PAL, and by buying more PAL, they increase the flywheel, and that's it. That's the way we want to do it. Of course, the only way this can be successful is if the parameters for this are right. So we've already voted on the base system, but right now there's a proposal for the mission to decide what's the budget going to be for this, and there's a proposal for the boost parameters. The boost parameters is very important because it's the one that's going to determine how much of the incentives is distributed to people who are already aligned and to people who aren't. So to give you an example, if we are emitting 50,000 PAL, which is what we suggested, with a 5x boost, on average, roughly 40,000 PAL are going to go to people who are already aligned and 10,000 to people who don't have. So basically, anyone that doesn't have PAL either can farm a maximum of 10,000 or has to buy some more. So it's very quickly going to become a crowded play. And that's the whole incentive, to get people excited about it, especially as people get excited around the curve wars, around the bouncer wars again, and around new projects like the Maverick wars, for example. So yeah, last proposal that we haven't talked about is the Foldgar team, which has built the Warlord Pounder. They've asked for a grant on the forums. Please do check it out. I think it's a very reasonable proposal, and it should be in our best interest to keep having developers working around the ecosystem, because simply we will have a bigger ecosystem and a much stronger product by having all of this built around us. There's a few more integrations that are coming up that we're excited about, but as usual, you guys know everything takes a bit of time, right? So yeah, and in Snapshot, I think it's probably ending tomorrow or the day after. There's basically the signer rotation to replace a few signers and get a few more. I'm excited about this, especially about getting more dev brains into the multisig. So yeah, I think that's about it. In terms of outlook, basically Paladin V2, finally, that's out. Warlord Zap and Liquidity, and we're working on a few Dual Hand modules to make this more efficient. So we're basically tweaking and making everything better in order to just pass this supermarket as seamlessly as possible. Of course, we have revenue expectations if we want to do well. Uh, I think you should look at it this way: each month over 45K of revenue is a really good month for us. That's it. Uh, I think I've said about everything for this. It's basically an outlook on what's going to happen over until the end of the year for the next 4 months. But everything I've showed should be out in much less time, right? But the idea is this is what we're working on right now. Okay, I think I've leaked everything, but this was done at the right time. Thank you very much, guys. If you have questions, please, now is the time, or at any time on the forums, and you can claim this magnificent PO-up to celebrate this announcement and 2 years of mainnet, which is something. Thank you very much, guys. I'll leave the mic open for those who have questions. By the way, not to make this too personal, but Votium V2 got 80 likes, so this is the threshold of communication and visibility we should strive to smash. I'm just saying, I'm not competitive, but okay, it seems we've been pretty straightforward and we don't have any questions. We'll leave the call open 1 or 2 more minutes, but if not, we'll close it down just after.